as professionals, you plan, you script, you have a pretty good idea what it's going to be. So what is the scope or room for spontaneity in a performance like yours? And similarly in music, Carnatic music I think allows more scope than perhaps Western classical. This is the impression, even though there is in both. So how much is scripted? So spontaneity has what? If you put it in percentage terms, will it be 10%, 15%, 20%?
For me, it's 10 to 20. There are some comics who will just go off script for quite a while. They call it crowd work. Some guys are very good at it.
What do they call it?
Crowd work. Crowd work. They work.
Crowd work, is it?
Crowd work. They go like, what's your name? What do you do?
Oh, அந்த மாதிரி ஓட்டுவாங்களா?
Then you keep going. It's I do that very minimally because I have syllabus to cover, as I say. I've written quite a bit to go to present. But then the whole art of stand-up comedy is to present as if you are spontaneous. But I've written out the whole thing and I've practiced as if, even this I practice. Like whatever I'm going to say in the first line, I walk in, today is a glorious day because we have a Christian hanging out in the Hindu office. I practiced so many times and tried to say, because that's the first joke, people have to giggle to set the tone. In my mind, that's what it is. And that giggle is very priceless. Because that sets
But I'm going to challenge you on that.
Ayyo.
Okay, hang on. No, I'm going to challenge you on that.
Rock the boat.
Before that, you also must be thinking of boundaries. How far can I go? What can I push? Where should I stop?
But that's already in the script. And that I've already reviewed with folks within the close circle. So what is going to happen?
There's an internal assessment committee.
Internal assessment. Exactly. Which includes my wife. So how much, what kind of calls to expect, this weekend after I finish that show, the extent in which it can go, if it happens, if you get arrested, whom to call, that level of planning we do, and we tend to at least, இதுக்கெல்லாம் அது வராது, இதுக்கு இவ்வளவுதான் வரும். So risk assessment, I think
Maybe I need to follow your track now. I don't seem to have that system in place. No, but I'm going to challenge you on that. I'll tell you why. Okay, it's completely scripted. Let's say it's all written. But you will agree that first sentence, I'm a Christian and Hindu, right? One day it will work, one day it will not work, right?
It will not work.
Okay, hang on. So what worked on that one day which did not work on the second day? It's the same script. You practiced it 100 times.
Yeah.
It worked one day, it didn't work another day. That's spontaneity, isn't it?
That's spontaneity.
So I'm saying even the script, he can't, even though he has practiced 100 times, something happens there. Even if you know the dialogue, even if I know it, I'm just saying spontaneity is not just about saying something new necessarily. It is saying something in a manner that it opens that space for laughter at that moment. And I think that is still spontaneity. That's why I'm saying I'll challenge you.
So how do you say that line that day in that spot?
Yeah, I think that's a very important, I think that's true of music too, which is why I challenged him on that. In my case, I've always been a person largely who loves to go to a concert with a blank slate, with nothing written on it. I love to.
And you're a componist?
Nobody, they know me. But if they've been with me for a long time, we know each other's minds, musical minds, right? Yes, it doesn't mean I will block my mind if I think of a composition I won't do that. But I would try to just be as blank as possible, get on stage, and actually in that moment say, okay, what shall we do? That is the way it works for me. And that's the way when I start a raga, when I start a concert, there's that little note that I'll suddenly spot. It's actually physically there for me.
Wow.
It's right. And I'll say, okay, let's go there. And then I'll say, okay, let's see. And then just say, let's see what happens. So it's possible nothing will happen, I collapse. That's possible. But that's just, again, my trait. There are musicians who plan the entire concert too. But as I'm saying, it's not about the newness, it's about that moment, that space like clicking open. and it'll just click open, in a manner that you can't describe how it is. But there is a prep for it. There is a mental prep. The mental prep is how much can I be in a mind space that opens up this possibility. Each artist, I think, has a back green room kind of a prep or a home. Like, I don't like to talk. Or for me, tuning the tambura is that moment. When I'm tuning the tambura, the 4 strings, and they come together, I'll wait till they come together, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I've tuned 2 tamburas for 2 hours once. Literally 2 hours.
In the concert?
No. Illa, adukku varnam padrom naga.
Krishna will tune the tambura, hold on.
So actually, I experimented with another thing. I experimented with this idea of tuning the tambura with the screens open with the audience there. The point being that they too must learn to keep quiet while I'm tuning it. And you can also be tuned to the tambura. And I'm telling you, actually, it works magically. Because if you tell the audience, remain quiet, it's going to take 10 minutes, don't talk, you tune the tambura, they actually come into the space with you. Right? So in a way, it is about creating that space. So you do that in the green room. You don't talk. I mean, I'm a guy who speaks a lot, who doesn't speak at that moment. So little things you do. And that, I think, opens up spontaneity, opens up you being free enough in your mind. Yeah. So I think even the most planned musician or the planned person is allowing for this flexibility, definitely.
But I've also seen you, till you get on stage, people keep talking to you in public spaces.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do that.
Yeah, sometimes, so I'm sometimes nice and sometimes I'm not nice.
Yeah, it can be quite hard.
Yeah, it is very hard.
I thought you should rest your voice.
It's not just voice, it's mental. I think it's mental.
Yeah.
They're being very sweet, very kind. I mean, they're not, they'll come and say, can I take a photograph, and I'm like, I don't want to be talking. For me, actually, I'm worst to be met after a concert.
How do you?
Yeah, I'm terrible. Wow. But I put up sometimes I'm outright, I will just walk and look through you. But it's not because it's you. I just want my space after having sung for 2.5 hours, and I just want to go home, or I just want to get out of there, right? But it comes out as being arrogant or being, not being kind to your listener. No, it is not that. It's an exhausting experience to making music. Mentally and emotionally, it's exhausting. And sometimes you just need that time for yourself. I mean, absolutely. Sometimes, but you don't, like you said, you don't get it. You just go with the flow, and you deal with the consequences of being rude.
I really enjoyed Alex's programs and Krishna sir's music also. One simple question, I don't know whether it's right. I want to know how you people handle criticism.
Krishna gets the bags.
நான் இப்போ இதுக்கு எப்படி பதில் சொல்றது நான் யோசிச்சுட்டு இருக்கேன் இப்போ.
கிருஷ்ணாலாம் கம்பேர் பண்ணுவேன் எனக்குடா ஒண்ணுமே இல்லைங்க. I get hugs. I mean, it is very, very, it is hard only, but I think that's part of your, you quit a job, you're doing this full time, so you sit with, I have a supportive family, we talk about it. I try like one of the things that helped me is every time it's like my chillams yelling at me. So I try to tell myself.
என்னால சொல்ல முடியாது. எனக்கு செல்லமே கிடையாது.
So at least they are telling me. அந்த மாதிரி I try to tell, but then sometimes I get very upset. It's of course every feedback shapes you, you can't படிச்சிட்டு ignoreலாம் பண்ண முடியாது.
No.
It keeps playing in your mind.
So I think that the first reaction is a normal for everybody. Across, the first time you say, look, I'm keeping aside trolls and keeping aside that because adu patti pesradhe waste. I ignore. So I'm talking about criticism done in some amount of decency, at least what degree of decency. The initial reaction for every person is going to be hurt or anger or wanting to react. This is normal. What I do is I will just let that happen in my head, let it pass, leave it and go away. I'll come back to it maybe in the evening or the next day and read it again. Because I've gone through that process of feeling irritated or hurt. Because when you're really hurt, you can't read. You can't actually understand what is being said. Then I'll come back to it maybe the next day and then I'll read it again. Or I'll listen to somebody saying something again. And sometimes there may be something for you to think about in it.
Maybe some point you get.
It is distinctly possible you will get it. So so I believe you can come back to it sometimes. Immediate I don't. The other thing is I've learned is when I want to react, I write my reaction down for myself. I do that many times. I actually write it down. So there are many draft emails that I have.
That you know you won't send, but you wrote it.
அனுப்பிச்சே வச்சுங்க அவள்தான் இருக்கிற கந்தரகோலத்தில் 4 பங்கு ஆயிடும். So it helps in many ways. So but I think everybody kind of develops different ways of being able to engage with. You can't, important thing is you can't discard criticism. You can disagree with it, you can not think it's important for you, but there is that conversation with criticism that develops, and whatever comes out of it comes out of it, doesn't.
Krishna, what happens if you don't respect the critic because you know the chap is
Yeah. So
let me add that the Hindu has had music critics in the past.
and we have had an argument about that.
Krishna is saying, but some of them are quite pompous. And
That's an understatement.
they also give kacheris to which Vidwans would go. They're expected.
Yeah.
Musicians really felt hurt.
Oh yeah.
Now I realize, not just Krishna and this. And somebody said a collective depression descends on the music academy if so and so turns up. So when I was editor, we somehow managed to keep that critic out.
No, I think that is also part of it. Like sometimes you also develop respect for a certain critic, or you don't think the person, that critic does not know enough to write. I think that also happens. But I think that's why I think that the first time you read it, you must just read it and let your emotions flow and let your irritations rant at your home if you want to. Call your best friend and say, என்ன அதாலும் ஒன்றும் தெரியும், என்ன எழுதிருக்கான் தெரியுமா, உனக்கு காம்போஜன் என்ன தெரியுமா, இதெல்லாம் பேச்செல்லாம் முடிச்சிடலாம். முடிச்சிட்டு when you come back to it, sometimes even from a person who you don't think knows, is not deep enough, sometimes there is a stray statement that comes in and says that makes you think, and I think that's still valuable.
Yeah.
And I think that's still valuable.